say that there's a general recognition that globally we're not ready for the big outbreaks, and we're really playing catch up right now. We're really trying to accelerate our preparedness. There was an annual report that came out last year from what's called the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, and they've made it quite clear that the international community and individual governments have not invested adequately in disease preparedness. Well, our biggest area of concern right now is Iran, where the highest number of cases are, and it's around 250 cases in Iran, spread across at least 7 cities in the country, and we know already that cases have spread from Iran to 9 other countries.
Health officials with the CDC say it's not a matter of if, but when a coronavirus outbreak hits the U.S.
Don't panic. There are simple things you can do right now to help prepare. The Department of Homeland Security says stock up on medicines for yourself and your children, like pain relievers, cough and cold medicines, even medicines for upset stomach, and don't forget those fluids that contain electrolytes.
Government officials also say make sure you have a supply of any regular prescription medicines you might need.
And don't forget, it's important to store a 2-week supply of food and water.
That means canned and non-perishable food and enough bottled water for everyone in your family. Some experts suggest stocking up on soap, detergent, and baby supplies to last at least a month. That way you have what you need if there's any disruption to the supply chain.
And if you're often out in big crowds or you ride public transit, consider carrying wipes or using a disinfectant spray with alcohol. And use it often.
And what about masks? We found some online vendors jacking up the prices, preying on people's fears. This seller peddling a box of 10 masks for $299. And this person hawking a 10-pack for nearly $700. But do you really need to stock up?
I'm here with Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Natalie, what's the bottom line on masks? Are they helpful?
So, Vicki, the bottom line right now is that there is no recommendation for anybody in this country to wear a mask to protect them against coronavirus unless you are exhibiting symptoms yourself, are sick, or are taking care of somebody who is sick.
Dr. Azar says the N95, a specialized mask, does protect against the coronavirus, but the CDC recommends preserving those masks for frontline healthcare workers.
Should you worry if you can't get one of these N95 masks?
Unless there's a widespread community outbreak, this is not something that Americans necessarily need to have.
And another thing, health experts say some people have overreacted, avoiding Chinese restaurants and businesses out of fear that is baseless. Coronavirus is spread by saliva, coughing, sneezing, or direct contact with people who are sick.
At the end of the day, what is the number one thing you can do to prevent yourself from being sick?
Right now, I think the number one thing that people need to do, which we tell people for flu anyway, is to wash your hands. And we mean 20 seconds, really scrubbing. That's how the germs are going to get off of you.
And Dr. Azar says if you develop a dry cough, fever, and shortness of breath, don't wait. See your doctor.
And if you have children, ask if their schools have a plan for what to do. If there is an outbreak, are they considering things like online lessons if kids have to stay home or any other measures? And one of the biggest germ carriers, you all know this, but this is something we all carry around, is our phone. So the key here, wipe it down often. You want to use wipes that have alcohol. Let me pass those out. Sure. Here's the thing, too. Don't take this with you when you go to eat. That's something people have. Because you're going to touch this. You're going to touch your food.
And also, sometimes someone will hand me their phone and I'll take a picture, or whatever.
I see you do that a lot.
We do that a lot, so that's a no-no. By the way, who is most susceptible to getting this?
We're always talking about the elderly, the young, people with compromised immune systems.
These
That's
are
the
nice
other
wipes.
thing. Yeah, these are not bad.
And it's not going to mess up the. I thought you were just doing your face.
The best thing you can do is really the easiest thing to do is wash your hands.
Wash your hands, but really scrub them. Yeah.
20 seconds, get all the germs off, and do it frequently.
They get it under the nails and stuff.
Yeah.
Does Purell's work as good as soap and water, do we know?
If it has 60% alcohol, that is going to kill the coronavirus and the other germs that cause flu and other bacteria. So that's the key.
I think that if the situation goes on for many, many months, I think the shortage issue is a very real one. And it could affect lots of different drugs. I do. A lot of antibiotics come from China, but you also have active ingredients in cancer drugs and drugs, for cholesterol, for high blood pressure, for gastrointestinal disorders, pretty much you name it.
I think in a matter of a couple of months, we'd be really seeing some problems.
What kind of drugs are we relying on China?
thousands.
If the coronavirus epidemic continues for an extensive period of time, and if such dominance in medicine could be weaponized by the Chinese government after all.
The existing inventories will dry up. There was a fascinating report in the Indian media saying that India's generic industry, it depends heavily, this is the generic pharmaceutical industry, it depends heavily on chemicals coming from China for their generic medicines. Right. India supplies 25% of the US market, and they're very concerned about production in China. Some of that production that India relies on is in Wuhan for antibiotics, for certain vitamins. Mm-hmm. So the longer that this persists, the risks of a global shortage of really important medicines escalates rapidly. But this is a consequence of the global supply chain being concentrated in a single country. If there's an outbreak in other countries, where are the masks going to come from? This is why one of the recommendations in China RX is that we diversify our manufacturing base, that we get supplies from multiple countries. And in some cases, we're going to have to each develop our own manufacturing capability, because if there's an outbreak in Europe or Canada or Australia now or in the future, each country is going to want to keep product for their own people. And that's perfectly understandable. But it leaves everybody else vulnerable. We're not hearing transparency from companies. They may not want to raise concern among the public, but I think in a matter of a couple of months, we'd be really seeing some problems. If it persists, and if demand persists in China, it'll be a whole other issue if the outbreak gains a foothold here in the United States, which the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has suggested could happen. So hopefully for a couple of months. We are already hearing that hospitals and their suppliers are being careful about allocating existing supplies. It's rationing, basically. Let's take the example of a patient with coronavirus who's very seriously ill and they need to be hospitalized. If they have trouble breathing, which a small percentage of them do, they might be put on a mechanical ventilator to help them breathe. And these things are done to help people recover, and the good news is many people are recovering. So this is really important care that they're receiving. So they'll be given a sedative. It might be propofol or fentanyl. And if they develop a secondary infection that's bacterial, they might be treated with an antibiotic. If they go into shock, they might be given other medicines like epinephrine or dopamine. So I asked those who make, or actually doing the manufacturing of these generic medicines, where do the materials come, the chemicals come to make them? And all of them have said that 90% of those core materials, the raw materials, come from China. It may start with certain products, not across the board, but we'll certainly see shortages of very, very important medicines. Bear in mind that in the United States we already have hundreds of medicines that are currently in shortage, and this is pre-coronavirus. And there's lots of reasons for that. And the coronavirus outbreak, if it continues, that will put even more pressure. We need a much better system in this country, and I suspect other countries do too, to predict. I mean, this is predictable. Right. This could happen, it will happen again at some point in the future. We don't want it to, but it could happen in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. And we have to plan, we have to predict and prepare. So we have some manufacturing capability here in this country, and perhaps we can help other countries by exporting medicines to them when they need them. So we really have to diversify our manufacturing base and have some degree of self-sufficiency.
This paper predicted the coronavirus outbreak in China 1 year before it happened. It was published in March 2019, and it had this statement. It is generally believed that bad-born coronavirus will re-emerge to cause the next disease outbreak. In this regard, China is a likely hotspot. The challenge is to predict when and where, so that we can try our best to prevent such outbreaks. So, if this was published in March 2019, and coronavirus outbreak was announced in December 2019, why didn't anyone do anything during this whole time? The paper is titled Bat Coronavirus in China, and it was published by 4 researchers. This paper came from Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is located in Wuhan, the place where the outbreak began. The paper was received on the 29th of January 2019. Just to be clear, this is a review paper, and review papers take a while to write, which means the researchers have been working on writing this paper since 2018. So it was received on the 29th of January 2019 and published in the journal on the 2nd of March 2019. So that is 10 months before the outbreak. In this paper, the researchers expressed their concern over a virus that will emerge from bats. As they stated, it is highly likely that future SARS or MERS-like coronavirus outbreaks will originate from bats, and there is an increased probability that this will occur in China. Therefore, the investigation of bat coronaviruses becomes an urgent issue for the detection of early warning signs, which in turn minimizes the impact of such future outbreaks in China. In this paper, they also linked bat to coronavirus before it was even confirmed. According to their hypothesis, since bats travel over long distances, they can have higher chances of picking up deadly pathogens from one location and transmit that virus into another location. And because bats are mammals, they will very likely eventually transmit these deadly pathogens into humans. They also predicted how the transmission of the virus from bats to humans may likely to occur. As they say, Chinese food culture maintains that live slaughtered animals are more nutritious, and this belief may enhance viral transmission. Because of the track record of how many similar viruses bats have hosted, in other words, viruses that have the same or similar genome, they predicted that bats will be the means of the transmission of the new virus into humans. So, with all of this information, why didn't anyone do something about this? Someone knew about this a year in advance and warned us. But still, these warnings didn't get enough attention. The researchers even published the paper in an open access journal, which means anyone can read the article. They even had it under Creative Commons license, which means anyone can copy-paste it and republish it anywhere with the proper attribution. So, was this a wild guess, or was there really a cover-up? Is it true that the Chinese government censored information about the virus until it was too late? This can't be a wild guess because the researchers used genetic data to build the profile of the potential emerging virus. They also compared the new data with previous outbreaks that happened with similar viruses before, such as SARS in 2003 and MERS in 2012. If the researchers knew about this, shouldn't they have made more efforts to alert the world? And if they did, was there someone to stop them? In the end, the real question should be, should the world punish countries that censor information about potential outbreaks of new deadly pathogens? One thing for sure, research papers on biology are endless, and they are becoming cramped. With so much data and so many publications on biology, it's hard to see which one is more important and in need for urgent attention. Maybe the prediction for the next outbreak is already published, but we just can't spot it or take it seriously.
We're following breaking news. CNN has just confirmed a whistleblower for the Department of Health and Human Services reported U.S. workers who assisted coronavirus evacuees from Wuhan, China, did not have proper training or protective gear. Let's discuss this and more with our medical and political experts. Eric Ding, you're an epidemiologist at the Harvard School of Public Health. What do you think of this report? We confirm the Washington Post report.
Yeah, it's very troublesome because we know this virus is just so infectious. You know, if you go back to the cruise ship, a Japanese quarantine officer, fully geared, went on the ship, came back off the ship and was diagnosed with this virus, and he was fully protected. to have 2 health workers go onto that plane with known positive cases and have no protection is just gross misconduct and irresponsible.
Well, tell us also about this very disturbing development out in California, where CDC officials now say they have confirmed the first known what's called community spread of the coronavirus here in the United States.
Yeah, it's very troublesome because this is the first case in the United States in which this person had no travel to China, nor had any contact with people in China. It is an unknown origin, and we believe it's a first canary in the coal mine sign that it's spreading in the communities. But the problem is we have almost no testing. We've only had less than 500 tests in the whole country. South Korea has 40,000. And that's why we're kind of driving in the dark with no headlights without any sufficient testing.
It's so disturbing when we hear these developments, Gloria, especially now this whistleblower complaint, a formal complaint by a respected, highly regarded official of the Department of Health and Human Services, who's saying that the U.S. sent these people in there without protective gear.
Well, look, I think it's a real problem, and I think what the American public wants to hear from the government right now. And by the way, in this kind of a crisis, the American public generally believes what the government is telling you. They want to believe you. What they want to hear from is the scientists. They need to hear from the scientists like Tony Fauci, who, according to the New York Times, may be kind of muzzled by the administration. He can't speak unless he's allowed to, and he is somebody who's spoken on infectious diseases for decades and decades.
A regular guest on our program.
Right. They don't want to hear from the politicians right now. They want to hear from the scientists to know what is being done, what needs to be done, what we're missing, such as the testing, for example, absolutely, and what they can do to protect themselves instead of getting platitudes, which the president delivered yesterday, which was everything is great. We don't think it's going to spread here, but if it does, we're ready.
I mean, at least, to give the president some credit, I think what he was trying to project is that America's health and scientific community is prepared, that we have a lot of means. I think that is good information. People do want and need to know that. But I agree with you. What we need is information. As a citizen, I want the government to be working at the federal level in a united way, because only the government has the scale and the ability, Eric, as you were saying, to quarantine and to get this testing up and going. That's what's so important. I cannot urge the political class enough to step back from accusations of weaponizing information and trying to make the president look bad. Everybody has got to be rooting for our government to be organized, to be transparent, and to clear the way to make sure that what the health and scientific community needs, it gets, and at the same time that we communicate really effectively with people in my own family. My kids are asking me, what do I need to know about this? There's a lot of misinformation, and in the age of social media, boy, that fear can spread.
Well, what do you think about this effort now to control the messaging and prevent people like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's in charge of infectious diseases at NIH, from going out?
I think it's a really bad idea. I think that, look, Tony Fauci is somebody we both have known, all of us have known for decades, leading combatant in the health community of even the HIV virus and AIDS, so he's an expert. And when he speaks, people not only listen, but they are reassured. You want him to do that. I don't like the idea that the administration would try to shut those people down. I think it's a good thing, frankly, that the vice president is tasked with this effort, because he's got proximity to power to the president and the organizational abilities. But let's make sure we lead with our health and scientific community.
Yeah, the CDC and NIH should be able to stand on its own. There are scientific bodies, public health scientists, people who know how to contain and control this epidemic. They need to have an independent voice that's not muzzled.
You heard the president say last night that he doesn't regret cutting the funding for the CDC and NIH.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. And right now we need more than just a $2.5 billion requisition. We need probably 10x that, because the number of scale of testing that we need to do to fully capture and stop this virus is on an order of magnitude this country has not seen before.
And this is where the funding cut hurts.
Yes.
Because if you had the funding, one could argue that you might have had more of those testing kits, that you might have been more prepared for something like this. Now, I'm not saying that we can't get prepared. Our public health community is amazing, as you know, and they can only work so hard and do so much in a limited period of time. And don't forget the president was saying initially that this is a seasonal issue and that it would all go away by the spring. I hope he's right. But the public health officials are saying not so much. We just don't
And by
know.
the way, the CDC just put out a statement saying that because of this one case out in California of what's called this community spread of the virus, they're now changing the criteria for testing, which is going to be.
Let's recap how this incredible day played out. The Dow just had its biggest point drop in history, falling 1,190 points. That was a 4.4% drop. The Dow index has now lost 3,200 points this week alone. It is now down nearly 10% this year. The S&P, meantime, falling 4.4% as well, handing in its worst day since August of 2011. And this is the fastest correction, a 10% drop from the highs, in the entire history of the stock market. Let's focus on the big names that you know, the ones that control the market, the FANGs. They tumbled as well, and they took the market with them. You had Apple down 6.5%, Google 5.5%, and look at Microsoft, a 7% drop. Wow. So as stocks sold off, buyers, they flooded into bonds. The 10-year yield at one point traded at 1.24%, ended at 1.26%. That, by far, the lowest ever at any time in American history for that 10 years. Now, bond traders say that not only are they expecting a rate cut by the Fed on March 18th, but there is chatter, the possibility of maybe an intra-meeting cut between now and then. All told, the fear on the street is very real. So, Tim Seymour, our audience tonight is likely asking two very simple questions. What do I do now, and what comes next?
Thanks, Brian. So if you think about, first of all, when markets really start to panic, policymakers start to act. And I think that the policy response, which we've seen so many times, is certainly part of the evolution of where we go from here. The problem is we've had the conversation for 18 months about what policymakers can really do for the economy. We know what they can do short term for markets. In terms of the news flow, obviously, today we started to get both, bottom-up news flow in terms of, EPS forecasts, things cut to the bone, things that are follow through from what we've seen from companies over the last, say, 2 weeks, especially, and it's going into crescendo. You have a case here where I think the news flow, look, on the virus, let's be clear. The news flow on the virus, that trend significantly lower. And when without getting too deep into the dynamics of the virus itself, you actually have an incubation period with the virus where my guess is we still have a lag time where that news flow should probably get worse. But maybe more importantly, in terms of the communication from officials, and this is officials around the world, that type of a response tends to come in a delayed response. So for equity players, by any definition, we are oversold. And Brian, outlined a lot of that on the way down. If you think about where we were on December 24th of 2018 for that Christmas Eve low, and you looked at the relative strength indicators for the S&P, we were at about a 12 9-day RSI, relative strength, a measure of momentum. We're there now. And we're certainly, as we pointed out, put a punctuation in terms of what markets can do. The problem right now for me, Dan, and this is that markets haven't even taken out kind of where we were before the highs of the coronavirus dynamics, where we were concerned about other things.
So, it's funny. A lot of people have been talking about these mega cap stocks. We've never had the sort of concentration that we've had in the S&P 500 by so few names, and we know what they are. It's Microsoft, it's Apple, it's Google, it's Amazon. And just about a week and a half ago, they met up nearly $5 trillion of the S&P 500, and that was 17, 18% or something. So if you thought that they kind of overshot on the upside over the last few months, that the sentiment just got overly complacent relative to those, then you say to yourself, what is the level on the downside where it's gotten too oversold? And none of us know exactly what that is. And I think it's also really important to remember that this virus, it's unquantifiable what it means to the supply chains, what it means to demand, what it means to these companies. I know there's a lot of arguments like, well, Microsoft's not really in China or this and that, whatever. That really doesn't matter. When you think about the two companies that really rattled the U.S. stock market this week, it was Apple and it was Microsoft by kind of pulling that Q1 guidance. So to me, when you think about what were the expectations for S&P earnings coming into 2020, a year after the S&P rallied 30% with no earnings growth, it was high single digits, and people felt pretty comfortable about that. Now you can throw that out the window. So the question is, do you going to have 2019 and 2020 with multiple expansion if the market's going to go back up with no meaningful earnings growth?
Yeah, Dan's bringing up a very important point, and I think that we've talked about it for months on this show, and most people said that's not the way it goes. But Steve, I got to ask you, coronavirus is the villain. We know that. This is the fastest 10% drop in the history of the market. I'm talking to people all day long today who are saying that they're selling ETFs. The QQQ had triplets daily average to raise collateral, to raise cash. And the ETF market makers are not there to put the bids in. How much does that crowding that Dan talked about accelerate what would be selling in?
It's all about positioning. It's all about leverage. But my problem is when you said what comes next. Tomorrow's Friday, ahead of the weekend news. What's the news flow that we're going to see? Is it going to be better or worse than it was today? It's going to be worse. So how do you bottom on a Friday? You don't. For me, it's 28.55. It's 100 handles lower in the S&P. That's where I find support. Then I think you can substantively bounce from there. But that's a next week story for me.
Yeah, I say for us, something important happened today. We breached the 10% drawdown. 10%, while it feels terrible, that's kind of a garden variety type pullback. And we actually put a note out this morning saying if we didn't hold at 30.50, we thought a growth scare was in play. So what's a growth scare? That's a 14 to 20% type drawdown. And we've had plenty of those since the financial crisis. We had it in 2015, 2016, fourth quarter of 2018. We had it back in 2010, 2011. So that scenario for me is now in play. What I'm watching next is 2,900. I know it's impossible to quantify what's going on right now. We've taken a stab at it, and our best guess at the moment tells us we can start to make a valuation argument again after we get down below 2,900.
But she brings up that level 30.50. Yeah. That's the 200-day moving average, 30.45. So people are looking at, so when you say what's going on, people are setting their algorithms because they have no clue where this market's going. So they set them for moving averages. So you have to know the technicals for you to be
and they're going to sell it down to those levels. Tim, I texted you today and I said basically, what's
going on, Tim?
Yeah, what's going on, Tim? And you said there was a technical attempt to recover today. Remember, we were only down 200, and I say only down 200 tongue in cheek before it failed. Why did we fail?
Well, to me, I think there's certainly some algo dynamics which continues to press on things. 30, 45, something in there, 200-day. It seemed it was an inevitability, not just this morning. It was an inevitability last night. We were kind of in no person's land. But, you have a case here. I want to look at where was the market really before the Fed jumped in and supplied $400 billion of balance sheet. And so just at least as a context, and this is kind of what Lori's doing, too. Get back to 28.55, which is what Steve said, which is the level on October 3 of 2019, which was that low that we hit before we essentially got the Fed to respond in the tune of QE4, which they're not saying it was. But I think you have to drop in, where was the market sentiment at that time? The market was, that was the sentiment without a world of coronavirus. That was a world where we were certainly digesting the fact that the world was struggling with the trade war dynamic, but it was struggling with what we were seeing in terms of Asian PMIs, European PMIs, and actually the leading indicators in the United States. Yeah, that is a world we at least have to get back to and address, in my view. And that's not a terrible place. That's just a place that I think takes out a lot of that Fed, even though we're going to get more Fed. But that really looks you in the eye of where we were staring at lower growth and lower earnings.
Yeah, it's not a great place to be, though, when you think about it. I've heard a lot of commentary about a sort of V reversal that's going to happen, in China once this thing moves on, given the monetary and the fiscal stimulus that people expect. But, markets can turn on a dime. Economies generally don't. And when you think about it, I think there's another theme that I keep hearing about is this deglobalization. It was kind of one of the themes of the trade war that we've been in for the last year and a half. And let me just tell you this. If you see U.S. multinationals moving out of China in a meaningful way, and there's a lot of good reasons why they should, I just think that you have to remember that China's economy has been a driving force in global growth, especially over the last decade when we've seen when we've seen Europe and the U.S. kind of weak, and so if you take all that business out of there, what's going to happen to that emerging middle class that so many of our companies have been just dying to get in for? So to me, I don't think you see the global economy turn on a dime once this thing dissipates. And I'm not trying to tell a too dire of a story, but, risk asset valuations have been inflated, no doubt about it. And we saw it last Q4 or last half of last year after the Fed got in there.
I agree with you. I don't think you just see economies turn on a dime, but the S&P and markets are always forward-looking mechanisms, and they always price out 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year ahead. So you could see the market turn way before you see the economy turn, and even when we're still in the death grasp of whatever we see going on in China.
But do you think the risk of a couple % slowdown this year, Steve, for global economies let's call it China, let's say they're flat for the quarter. No growth, 0%. Our GDP's hit by 0.5%. Europe's hit by 1%. Does that justify?
China, when I first started in this business, when you look at this all around the table, we had double-digit growth in China. Then we went down to around 6 to 8% growth in China. And now you don't know where we are. No one believed the numbers when they were double-digit. No one believed them when they were mid-single. We don't know where their growth is.
How about this? Does one case in Brazil justify a 12% drop or whatever in their markets in a matter of days?
No, but I mean, but no one knows where the other shoe's going to drop. No one knows where there's going to be a vaccine. I think you need a vaccine. When people are taking a stab at this when it came to tariffs and trade wars, you could sort of guesstimate. You have no way to guesstimate right now. You need a vaccine. That's it.
Well, Brazil is also, very much affected by what happens to China. When you think about also the world of commodities, the world of resources, who's the ultimate buyer of a lot of what Brazil produces? And if you think about emerging markets, and we'll have plenty of chance during this hour to kind of get into the implications. So far, you've actually had relative stability in terms of the currencies in EM, although if you look at where they were year to date against the dollar that we spent a lot of time talking about as well, you'd seen current account deficit countries like South Africa and Brazil and some of these, off 8 to 10%. But I think back to where the market has to at least find some place where we weigh what's inevitably a policy response versus a market that was challenging the Fed to really stay out of the market. And so if you look at the long end of the curve over the last couple of days, you can see, I know it seems dramatic, and I know we've talked about the yield compression that's gone on in the United States, but on a relative basis, considering the equity moves over the last couple of days, the long end of the curve has actually not done a whole lot. We've been stuck around 125 to 135 for 2 days in the middle of an equity you-know-what storm. So I think just think about the context of global yields, what that's telling you about the world, and what's telling you about what central banks can and cannot do right now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I think I got everything covered as to what's going on up to this point. I'm sure you can watch all these other YouTube videos and find out what's going on. There's tons of people out here exposing things just like me. So this is going to be the last video that I make unless some other events unfold here in my area. So if that happens to happen, then you'll see more videos on this list. But until then, we're going to start getting prepared. I'm going to start getting things that I need, which we should have been doing already. But money, money is tight, and so things haven't been as easy to do as you would think. Just like everybody else, I'm sure that all of you are hoping to prepare and wanting to prepare, but wanting and hoping and being able to and having the means to do so are two different things. So anyway, stay safe, everyone. Keep your hands washed and sanitized, and get the ready preparedness things that you're going to need. Some cases of water, some non-perishable foods, things like that, or what you want to get together. It's not like it's going to be some crazy thing where the whole world ends and everybody dies. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But we are looking at a lot of loss from this, and mostly elderly and sick people, but there are still people too. So stay vigilant, everyone. Try to keep your distance from people. We should probably stop shaking hands for a little bit. No high fives. I know people give dap and all that. We just got to stop touching each other for a little bit and stay away from people as much as possible. I know the movie theater industry doesn't want to hear it, but no more going to the movies for a while. I seen a carnival down the street from my house. No going to the carnival. What in the hell are these people even thinking? Money is what they're thinking. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. As I promised, here is the preparations video on how to be able to prepare and what you're going to need to be able to prepare for something like this if it does turn into an epidemic here in America. By definition, it is a pandemic. It just is. Look up the meaning of what pandemic is, you'll see that that's what we're in right now. Good luck, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you can. We can make a difference, but we must speak up.
Preparing for CBR defense is one of the most terrifying topics in the world of emergency preparedness. CBRN stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. It represents the protective measures taken in situations in which those hazards may be present. During the Cold War days, this was referred to by the term NBC, which stands for nuclear, biological, and chemical. It has since been replaced by CBRN, with the addition of a new threat, radiological, meaning a radiological weapon, such as a dirty bomb. These topics are truly horrific, whether they be used as weapons of war, terrorism, or even by human error. Yet, this topic is one that I had not prioritized highly in the past. Not that it was not important. After all, being in the Seattle region, I am just a 3-hour drive away from the Hanford nuclear site in eastern Washington, and a 2-hour drive away from Satsop nuclear power plant in Elm, Washington. Just across the Puget Sound, the third largest U.S. Navy base, located on the Kitsap Peninsula in Washington state, features one of the U.S. Navy's 4 nuclear shipyards and one of 2 strategic nuclear weapon facilities. With the horrific disasters that occurred at Chernobyl nuclear power plant in 1986, and most recently in 2011 at the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan, these potential hazards are lurking a little too close for comfort in my region. The reason I had previously not prioritized this higher in my family's emergency preparedness planning is that it was almost impossible to find a cost-effective way of protecting my children from the threat of CBRN. There just weren't very many options for CBRN or NBC protective suits and masks specifically made for children. The only options were expensive solutions that were typically reserved for the children of wealthy Russian citizens or royalty. For the past several years, this has been my holdup from becoming better prepared for CBRN hazards and attacks. How could I purchase high-quality protective hazmat suits and masks for my wife and myself if I couldn't do the same for my children? They depend on me for their safety. I just couldn't do it from a moral standpoint. This has been my dilemma for years now. However, I am happy to inform you that thanks to the company Mira Safety, those days are over. Mira Safety is leading the charge in offering civilians professional-grade CBRN protection, such as hazmat suits and gas masks for everyone, including youth and infants. They even offer solutions for small pets as well. This has been a game changer for my family's CBRN preparedness measures. After watching the popular HBO series Chernobyl, my wife asked me, the urban prepper, how our family's nuclear preparedness measures were looking. After I said, not good, she told me to get on it right away. So just like Mickey from the movie Rocky II, I excitedly sprung up and said to myself, well, what are we waiting for? I had numerous discussions with Roman, the founder and CEO of Mira Safety, about his own personal family protection measures and modeled my family CBRN kit off of the lessons that I learned from him. Roman's family originated from close to the Chernobyl disaster area and has deep knowledge in this subject that has been invaluable to me. In this video, I will show you my new family CBRN kit that features CBRN protective suits for each member of my family, in addition to some shared items. I am currently storing my family CBRN kit in my color-coordinated storage bins, which I covered in a previous video. I keep these color-coded bins, which leverage the concept I call the color of prepping, on shelves in our garage. This helps me keep all of my home preparedness supplies organized. Since the items in this kit are protective suits, I have these stored in a purple bin. In the color of prepping, the color purple represents the preparedness category for clothing items. I have a family of 4, including myself, my wife, my son, and my daughter. Rather than store everything in one large bin, I've modularized my family kit and have each family member's kit stored in their own insulated, reinforced grocery bag. Each bag is labeled with an ID tag. This will hopefully allow us to easily identify each family member's CBRN protective clothing quickly in case of an emergency. As always, I've created a PDF that you could download by clicking the link in the description box below. It has a list of all of the items that will be covered in this video. It also includes hyperlinks to each product that you could select if you'd like to purchase the item for yourself. I've included links to the exact sites that I purchased the items for myself. Mira Safety was kind enough to send me 2 of the gas masks and 2 of the HAZ suits for review purposes. Once I realized how awesome these products were firsthand, I purchased the remaining items for the other members of my family immediately. Lastly, I just want to state that I am by no means an expert in this field. The items selected for this kit were selected based off of numerous discussions I've had with Roman from Mira Safety, tons of online research, discussions with people who frequently use CBRN protective equipment for their line of work, and through inspiration I've obtained by watching shows like the HBO series Chernobyl, the movie Contagion, and more. You should definitely do your own research regarding this topic to figure out what would work best for you and your family's preparedness measures. Finally, let's get started with this video featuring my family CBRN kit. Let's start off first by going through all the items in the adult CBRN kits for mom and dad. The first item being the Mira Safety CM6M Tactical Gas Mask Full Face Respirator. This is a fantastic professional CBRN defense and emergency preparedness gas mask. It's been previously reviewed on my channel. It comes standard with a speech diaphragm, drinking system, and canteen. The butyl rubber face seal offers superior protection for CBRN agents. It's used by police forces, special operations, and CBRN specialists worldwide. Highly recommended. To go along with the gas mask, we also have the Mira Safety CBRN Gas Mask Filter NBC77 SOF 40mm. These NATO threaded filters are pricey, but have an unbelievable 20-year shelf life and are specifically tested with the CM6M gas mask for certification. They feature military-spec filtration technology and protect from a wide range of harmful and highly toxic substances, including CBRN agents. Due to the individual price, I recommend purchasing one of Mira Safety's packages that include the CM6M gas mask system in addition to 2 of the NBC77 filters. The next item is the Mira Safety HAZ Suit Protective CBRN Hazmat Suit. The Mira Safety HAZ Suit is used extensively by major fire departments for hazmat response, major hospitals for emergency preparedness first responders, major chemical companies for a wide range of potential hazmat exposures, and most branches of the U.S. Military Department of Defense. They're hand-stitched in the USA, and the fabric is made from a durable, puncture-resistant film composite with an excellent barrier to over 125 chemicals, including chemical warfare agents and toxic industrial chemicals. The Mira Safety HAZ Suit is one of the world's only hazmat suits offering a wide range of sizes, fitting children as young as 4 years old, and is designed to withstand long-term storage conditions without degradation in performance over time. The Mira Safety website provides a detailed information on the size guide and the chemical warfare agent data that this HAZ suit protects against. For boots, I'm going with the Ranger Overboots by Honeywell. The Ranger supersized rubber overboots offer full protection over leather work boots, protecting them from harsh environments, and is specifically designed for chemical protection. The vulcanized rubber construction prevents seams from leaking, which provides waterproof protection. So again, these go over your regular boots. The next item are the MCR Safety Chemical Resistant Gloves. The MCR Safety Chemical Resistant Gloves offer outstanding personal protection for various applications, from hazardous material and chemical biological response to laboratory, petrochemical, agricultural, and aerospace applications. The rolled gauntlet cuff extends protection to wrists and the forearms. They are resistant to most acids, alcohols, bases, esters, and ketones. It has excellent chemical permeation resistance as well. Stored with each CBRN suit, I have a packet of the Iostat Potassium Iodine 14 tablets. Potassium iodine is a salt of stable, not radioactive iodine that could block radioactive iodine from being absorbed by the thyroid gland, thus protecting this gland from radiation injury. The thyroid gland is the part of the body that is most sensitive to radioactive iodine. There are 14 tablets in each package of Iostat, which will protect one adult for 2 weeks. New FDA guidelines call for the daily administration of one Iostat tablet, which is 130 milligrams, for adults and children over 18 years old who weigh more than 150 pounds. Each Iostat tablet provides 24 hours of protection. Next, I have a Liberex hair clipper, battery operated. In order to achieve an ideal gas mask seal, it is best to have a clean shave. This inexpensive electric hair clipper runs on a single AA battery, so you don't have to worry about charging it. While I would shave during an actual emergency, I'm not going to do it now for the sake of this video. To go along with that hair clipper, I've also included a travel razor blade and travel shaving cream. Again, this is to ensure that I get a proper gas mask seal. And last, I've included some nitrile gloves. It is recommended to wear an extra pair of gloves underneath the primary gloves to avoid spreading contamination when removing the CBRN protective clothing. My wife's CBRN kit basically matches mine, although it's tailor-fit for her particular size. It also doesn't include all of those razors, shaving cream, and the hair clippers. Now let's move on to the youth CBRN kit that I use for both my son and daughter. Starting off first, we have the Mirror Safety CM2M Child Gas Mask Full Face Protective Respirator for CBRN defense. This is the same gas mask design that was used to save thousands of lives during the Chernobyl incident. It is the only children-sized full-face gas mask on the market that fits kids from 1.5 to 15 years of age. It is designed to filter out a full spectrum of CBRN agents, helping your child survive a disaster. It is made from durable PMK-S rubber construction, the same type used in Russian military masks, and uses the same 40mm NATO filters as the larger gas masks for interchangeability. The CM2M children's gas mask is available in two sizes. Size 1 is for kids 1.5 to 6 years of age, and size 2 is for kids 6 to 15 years old. To go along with the mask, we also have the Mirror Safety CBRN Gas Mask Filter NBC77 SOF 40mm. Again, these NATO threaded filters have an amazing 20-year shelf life. They feature military-spec filtration technology and protects from a wide range of harmful and highly toxic substances, including CBRN agents. The CM2M gas mask features a long hose that filter attaches to. While you can just carry the filter, it's probably better to use Mirror Safety's pouch that you could have the gas mask filter just rest in. You could also drape it around your shoulder and just store it in your backpack. Next, we have the Mirror Safety HazSuit Protective CBRN Hazmat Suit. Again, the Mirror Safety HazSuit comes in youth sizes, which is awesome. Youth large is for kids 4 foot 2 inches to 5 feet, or 60 to 90 pounds. Youth small is for kids 3 feet 3 inches to 4 feet 2 inches, or 35 to 60 pounds. I'm not aware of another company that makes a hazmat suit for kids of this quality. For gloves, I'm going with the Honeywell North 13 mil unsupported butyl glove size 7. These chemical-resistant butyl rubber gloves are available in kids' sizes. They are made in the USA, are highly flexible, and puncture-resistant. Butyl rubber has excellent impermeability and works great for this style of CBRN protective gear. Next, I have the Chemic Stomp Rain Boot for toddler, little kids, and big kids. While it's difficult to find a professional-grade CBRN boot for youth, this Chemic Stomp Rain Boot is 100% synthetic rubber, good quality, and should protect from most hazards outside of mustard gas. In each one of the kids' storage totes, I also have a package of Iostat Potassium Iodine 14 tablets. Children from age 3 to 18 years old who weigh less than 150 pounds should take half a tablet. Children from age 1 month to 3 years should only take 1/4 tablet. And infants less than 1 month old should only take 1/4 tablet as well. If necessary, children too young to take solid food or unable to swallow a tablet could take Iostat TM dissolved in a liquid, such as chocolate milk, or in a soft food such as applesauce. I've also included a package of Bubble Glove Kids Nitrile Gloves. The Bubble Glove is the first and only kids disposable nitrile gloves in North America with high quality material from Japan, so it's not made in China. They are specifically designed and manufactured for kids 5 to 12 years old. They are 100% latex-free, powder-free, and non-fragrant. They're FDA 21 CFR approved and have passed CSPIA 208 test. Again, these are the backup gloves that you use when taking off the suit to help avoid spreading contamination. And last, I have a Stars and Stripes do-rag. This particular one is made by Ergodyne. It's the Ergodyne Chillets. The Mirror Safety Kids gas mask has rubber straps instead of the elastic straps used on the adult CM6M gas mask. Both of my kids complained about it pulling on their hair and hurting, so I decided to pick up a few of these do-rags. They are quick drying, super absorbent, and comfortable. The remaining items in my family CBRN kit are community items, so we share them. The first being the Kapler Chem Tape chemical resistant tape. It's 60 yards in length and 2 inches wide. It is designed specifically for protective apparel and related applications. ChemTape provides the added assurance you need for taping gloves, boots, respirators, and storm flaps. It's also excellent for shelter-in-place applications. It's kind of pricey at almost $40, so for this particular video, I just used normal tape for the video segments that you've seen. In a true CBRN emergency, I would use the Kepler ChemTape. The next item is a book. This is the U.S. Armed Forces Nuclear, Biological, and Chemical Survival Manual. This is an awesome book that I also have on my Kindle device in addition to Amazon Audible. This manual will show you how to protect yourself during a chemical or biological attack, recognize the indicators of nuclear, chemical, and biological attack, develop a simple and effective family action plan, guard against radiological effects of a dirty bomb, assist victims of nuclear, chemical, and biological agents, and also provide guidance for assembling and storing everyday materials that could save your life. Again, this book is highly recommended. The reinforced grocery bags that I'm using are the NZ Home Extra Large Insulated Reusable Grocery Bags. They have reinforced no-tear handles and are made of extra strength thermal materials. So far, they've worked really nice for my CBRN kit. You've probably noticed that I haven't talked about a Geiger counter yet, even though I had an old school one featured in this video. I'm still in the process of saving up for a high-quality Geiger counter, but Mira Safety also offers a solution for this. This is the Mira Safety Geiger 1 Portable Dosimeter Geiger Counter. The Mira Safety Geiger 1 Portable Dosimeter Geiger Counter allows you to check radiation levels in your home, food, water, and surroundings. It uses the same SBM21 Geiger molar tube as military Geiger counters. Stay tuned for a product review of the Mira Safety Geiger 1 Portable Dosimeter Geiger Counter. Coming soon. And that concludes all the items that I store in my family CBRN kit. I keep this storage bin stored in the shelves in my garage in case of an emergency. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. Finalizing this kit has brought me a little bit of peace of mind. It feels good knowing that each member of my family now has a protective CBRN suit. Hopefully this is just all a big waste of money and I never have to use this. Again, I've provided a PDF document. You could download it by clicking the link in the description box below. It has a list of all of the items that have been discussed in this video. Leave your comments below in the comment section regarding this video. Thanks again for watching, and again, I hope you enjoyed watching this video featuring my family CBRN kit. See you next time.